Hello everyone, my name is Meenakshi. I'm from IIIT Bangalore. Today I'd like to talk to you about our work on static analysis for detecting high-level races in RTOS kernels. This is work done along with my PhD student Abhishek Singh, who is at Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and Rekha and Deepak, who are at the Department of Computer Science and Automation at IISc. Here is an overview of our talk. I'll tell you about what kernels of real-time operating systems look like and introduce you to the notion of high-level races. We'd like to call these RTOS kernel programs as interrupt-driven programs with certain features. So I'll tell you what they are about. We'll also see notions of critical accesses and what are disjoint blocks. I'll present the race detection algorithm and end with discussion of our experimental results. So, several critical applications, especially those in automotive and avionics, have to be typically deterministic and meet hard real-time constraints, and they rely on the underlying real-time operating systems in which they run to ensure that these conditions are met. There are several real-time operating systems available: FreeRTOS, TiRTOS, or open source operating systems. VxWorks is another popular RTOS. The one that will be the focus of this talk will be the real-time operating system that is being internally developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which we call as HAL RTOS. Typically, if you see application software that runs on these RTOSes, they are compiled along with the kernel library and use kernel APIs to be able to satisfy their functionality. RTOS kernels have several low-level synchronization mechanisms like enabling and disabling interrupts, locking and unlocking, preemption by other tasks, and so on. Applications that use multiple tasks invoke one or more of these kernel APIs directly, and it's challenging to analyze these kinds of applications. We'll now see what a notion of a high-level race is. A high-level race in an application occurs when two pieces of code, which we typically call as critical accesses, end up having overlapping access to a common set of variables or data structures that are globally used by these two pieces of code. Because they have overlapping access, the pieces of code that were supposed to execute atomically ends up violating such execution, which in the literature is usually called as atomicity violations. Usually atomicity violations are okay, but there are cases where it can lead to unexpected errors in software. Detecting atomicity violations and high-level races is an important problem, specifically in RTOS kernels, because they use non-standard synchronization mechanisms like disabling and enabling interrupts and preemptions, and such detection and features makes detection challenging. So I'll begin with a simple example to illustrate what a high-level race is. Here are code snippets for thread 1 and thread 2. Both of them operate on a global variable called balance, whose value at their beginning of their execution is 100. It's assumed that thread 1 begins first, followed by thread 2, and at the end of it, if things go well, balance will have a certain expected value. So thread 1 copies the value of balance to its own temporary variable. Thread 2 also does the same. Thread 1 modifies the temporary variable, puts it back to balance. Thread 2 modifies the temporary variable, puts it back to balance. A correct execution of thread 1 and thread 2 should give balance value as 250. That is thread 1 followed by thread 2. The value of the variable balance should be set as 250. But let's look at an execution that could get it wrong. Initially, to start with, balance is 100. Thread 1 begins its execution with balance value copied to its temporary variable, increments the temporary variable, and before it can set it back to balance, let's say thread 2 takes over, copies the current value of balance to its temporary variable, it's 100, then sets its temporary variable by decrementing it to 50, then copies it back to balance, and now thread 1 resumes again and sets balance to temporary variable 1. So it would not be 250, instead it would be 300, which is wrong, whereas the correct value of balance was supposed to be 250. So in order for the threads to execute correctly, a correct interleaving should have looked like this. Thread 1 completes its execution fully by manipulating balance, copying it to its temporary variable, doing its adjustment and resetting it back to balance, followed by thread 2 which does the same thing, which results in balance being 250. The main problem happened because the two pieces of code for threads 1 and 2, which were believed to be critical accesses, so they should be executed atomically, didn't happen. So A and B are critical accesses which didn't execute atomically. They had an overlap, and because of this overlap, this resulted in a high level race, which resulted in the global variable balance having the wrong value. So ideally, a good programmer should have locked the two executions of thread 1 and thread 2 as it's shown here, to ensure that when thread 1 begins, the lock is held and all the three statements of thread 1 are executed and the lock is released, after which the thread 2 could begin, which holds its own lock, executes all its statements and releases the lock. So we would like to analyze kernel APIs that have similar behaviors which occur in real-time operating systems. These kinds of kernel APIs have several low-level synchronization mechanisms, as we call it, and we would like to analyze kernel APIs irrespective of the operating systems that they operate with, and we believe that they also have a common set of features. So what we've done is we've extracted these kernel APIs, extracted the common features that we have, and we've called them by a generic class of names which we call as interrupt driven programs. So interrupt driven programs are a class of programs that correspond to kernel level RTOS APIs, and they may or may not have certain features. To start with, we look at interrupt driven programs with callback features, which are the kind of kernel APIs that are present in an operating system like that of HAL RTOS. So such interrupt driven programs, we assume, have a fixed number of threads and operate on a fixed number of global variables. We classify the threads into various kinds. There could be task threads, which are normal standard threads which are available as a part of the API functionality. There could be interrupt service routine threads or ISR threads, which are used for interrupt services. And for HAL RTOS, we specifically have callback threads which are activated by ISR threads. Callback threads typically function by suspending the scheduler so that no other preemption can happen. So HAL RTOS or IDC programs with callbacks also deploys synchronization constructs like enabling and disabling interrupts, locking and unlocking preemptions, and it also uses several different kinds of flags. So here is a generic semantics of how an IDC program looks like. We have statements like skip, then we could have elementary assignment statements. We could have statements like assume B, where B is a Boolean expression. It is enabled if B evaluates to true, otherwise it is just a weaker form of assert, acts like skip. Start command enables the task and ISR threads of the kernel API for execution. Activate command is used to activate a particular callback thread. Disable and enable interrupts, disable and enable interrupts and context switches respectively. Lock preemption and unlock preemption are used for suspending and resuming the scheduler respectively. When we mean by suspending the scheduler, we mean that task threads, callback threads, they all cannot be preempted by the thread that is currently running. So this is a summary of what can preempt what in an IDC program. Please note, task threads can be preempted by other task threads or callback threads, provided interrupts are enabled and the scheduler is not suspended. Task threads can also be preempted by interrupt service routines, provided they are enabled. Callback threads execute whenever interrupts are enabled and the scheduler is not suspended. Once a callback or an ISR thread executes, they cannot be preempted. So at that point, the scheduler is suspended. So here is a small piece of IDC program, an example of code that is taken from HAL RTOS. We have three kinds of threads here, one task thread, one callback thread, and one ISR thread. The task thread is a kernel API function for process resume, is invoked with a pointer to the process control block of a task. PCB first checks if a given task is in the delay queue, that is, it is waiting, and then moves it to the ready queue. This part is done within the scope of the lock preemption command, which you see from lines 2 to 6 within the code of task thread. Tick ISR is an ISR thread whose main job is to increment the tick count and to activate the time delay callback. What does the time delay callback do? It basically scans through the delay queue, moving tasks whose time to awake has passed into the ready queue. Please note that these three APIs or threads use several shared variables, queuestruct and delay queue and ready queue, which are kernel data structures. Let's imagine a scenario where we have an application where this task thread is called. It executes the check in line number 1, the if statement passes, but let's say before the scheduler is suspended by using the lock preemption command, the tick ISR threads takes over, increments the tick count, which in turn enables a process to move out of its delay queue. So the time delay callback is executed. It picks up the process from the delay queue and puts it into the ready queue. Now control goes back to the task thread, which locks the scheduler and goes into line number 3, where it looks for the particular process to be removed from the delay queue. But because it was already removed by the callback thread, this results in an exemption. We would like to avoid such scenarios with arbitrary interleaving of these various threads happening. So ideally, we would want to say that an interleaving of the task thread, which is marked in this set of statements marked as A, is critical with the set of statements that are marked B in the callback thread. That is, once the task thread executes, the set of statements A have to execute together. They cannot be preempted in between, and after they execute, the other statements could execute. Similarly, in the callback thread, the set of statements B all have to execute together and cannot be preempted. So A and B are actually write critical accesses to the kernel data structures delay queue and ready queue, and should be executed in a disjoint fashion. So we use the notion of disjoint blocks, which was introduced by Nikita, Rekha and Deepak in their ESOP paper. I'll tell you what it is. Disjoint blocks are pairs of path segments in the CFGs of different threads that a user can identify statically, and they are also guaranteed, as per the semantics of the program, that no matter what, these blocks of path segments will never overlap in any execution of the program. If you remember the first program that we looked at with two threads, thread 1 and thread 2, which were operating the balance global variable, the entire statement that was visible, statements 1 to 3 of thread 1 and statements 1 prime to 3 prime of thread 2 can be thought of as disjoint blocks. So they can be identified statically by a user, and we should guarantee that they never overlap. If they never overlap in any execution of a program, then we can avoid unnecessary races. So what we did was we took the HAL RTOS APIs, task threads and other entities, and manually identified the disjoint blocks. So we've identified 10 pairs of disjoint blocks for HAL RTOS, which is what is described in this figure. I'll explain to you a couple of them. Look at the first one, top right corner, the first pair of disjoint block. It says two task threads between disable, where their code is between a disable interrupt and enable interrupt, are considered to be disjoint, in the sense that in no execution of any application that uses these two task threads, these two blocks of code is expected to overlap. Similarly, several other task threads are there. These are identified by manual analysis of the kernel API. Going back to our running example of this process control block API, we would ideally say that this block of code marked A is a disjoint pair with this block of code marked B, and in this 10 pairs of disjoint blocks that have been identified, it belongs to block number G, which is in the bottom right. That is a task thread between a lock preemption and unlock preemption, better be disjoint with a callback thread that executes fully with the entire code segment of callback thread. That's what is being said here. Task thread between a lock and unlock preemption, which is marked as region A, is a pair of disjoint block with all the code of callback thread, which is marked in region B. So this belongs to one of the 10 pairs of disjoint blocks that have been identified for HAL OS. Once we do this, we are ready to run the race detection algorithm. So here is the algorithm. We need a interrupt driven program P and a set of critical accesses that have been statically marked by the user. and what the algorithm will return is a set of potential high level races. To start with, that set H is empty. We begin by performing a disjoint block analysis based on the identified patterns. For each pair A and B of critical accesses that have been marked, which we find to be conflicting, we first check if A and B are in different threads and if they are covered by a pair of disjoint blocks. If they are not covered by a pair of disjoint blocks that have been identified, we declare this pair A and B of critical accesses to be potentially racy. It could be a genuine race, it could be a harmful race, or it could be a benign race or a false positive. And we add it to the set H. The algorithm keeps repeating this for all the identified patterns and finally returns the set H. So we've applied this kind of analysis to several different kinds of real-time operating systems. We started out with working on FreeRTOS, which Deepak has been doing for many years at IISc. So FreeRTOS doesn't have callbacks, but it supports synchronization mechanisms by using flags. It's a small RTOS. Its total code is about 3.7K lines of code, and it's very popularly used in embedded software, including software like AWS IoT. We also analyzed an open source RTOS available from Texas Instruments, which we call TI RTOS. It supports callbacks by using software interrupts. It has software interrupts and hardware interrupts. It's a slightly larger RTOS than that of FreeRTOS, and it again seems to be popularly used. Our main goal, which was Abhishek's work, which I am presenting today, was to analyze HAL RTOS, which is what we presented, which is an IDC program with callbacks and with synchronization mechanisms like disabling and enabling interrupts, which is a complex RTOS because it's an ERING 653 compliant RTOS that supports time and space partitioning and is used in IHawk helicopters currently running by DRDO. So we analyzed HAL RTOS, FreeRTOS and TI RTOS. Subsequent to this paper, we also analyzed ChibiOS, which seems to be another popular RTOS used very much in drones. We couldn't find any races in ChibiOS. So the algorithm implementation details in brief. We mark the critical accesses manually, as I said, which is done by studying the kernel data structures, the API's code, and mark out the critical data structures. This is the most time consuming task of understanding each RTOS and doing this. We also have to mark each critical access as a read access or write access because it's important to identify later whether the race was genuine or a false positive. For disjoint block analysis, we use locks. Locks are acquired at the beginning of the block and released at the end of the disjoint block. Lock set analysis is used to implement disjoint block analysis. And for each pair of critical accesses, we check if they are covered by a pair of disjoint blocks. For HalOS, this was implemented in C. For FreeRTOS and TI RTOS, it was implemented using the SIL framework. Here is a table summarizing our results. I've provided it for all the 4 RTOSs. The first column provides the number of APIs that we've analyzed in each of the RTOSs. FreeRTOS is a large number of APIs, but HAL RTOS is the most number of lines of code and has the most number of critical accesses that were marked. 945 pairs were marked as critical accesses, and 945 code segments were marked as critical accesses, out of which 6,000 plus were marked as conflicting pairs. The tool reported 187 potential races, and eventually the number of false positives was only 19. What I mean by false positive here is that the tool reports it as being racy, but it's actually not racy in the original system. And amongst true positives, we classify it as benign race and harmful race. So a whole set of races reported by the tool for HAL RTOS were found to be benign. But the important part was 3 actual harmful races were detected, which were subsequently verified, and this algorithm was run once again to ensure that they don't occur again. So this was the biggest takeaway from the exercise because we were able to detect 3 actual races in a currently usable RTOS system like the one developed by HAL. So in summary, we provide a comprehensive static program analysis based approach for detecting high-level races in RTOS kernels. Our approach is sound, seems to have a low rate of false positives to the extent that we have tried out by experiments. It scales better than earlier approaches which are based on model checking, And currently there is work going on which talks about extending it to analyzing RTOS applications also. Thank you.